Welcome to the Shenandoah Valley Cooking Class. I'm Jay Langston, the Executive Director of the Shenandoah Valley Partnership. We appreciate you joining us. For those of you who have been with us before, I'm going to change our schedule just a little bit because this recipe, while really easy, it takes a little bit of time. So before we go to that, first of all, if you're cooking with me, two things. Go ahead and preheat your oven to 325 and start trying to melt your butter, because you really want to get that done, and you want to take it slow and melt it so that you won't scorch it. And I'll let you get started on that. And if you wanted to measure out your ingredients, you can do that also, because yes, I've already got all that done. I'm going to try to go slower so that you can follow along with me, but we'll give you this opportunity. We're being hosted today at the Shenandoah Valley Electric Cooperative's headquarters. This is their commercial kitchen. Right now I'm in heaven. And we'll talk a little bit more about why they have a commercial kitchen here, but I get to take advantage of a lot of the assets that they have. They are also probably our largest energy provider in terms of footprint, but I'll let Lucas Cade talk about that. So I hope that you have gotten started on the ingredients, the oven, and the butter. Make sure to stir the butter, do it slowly, and we're going to get started. Simple recipe. It is a hazelnut raspberry shortcake, and it's a shortcake recipe, meaning it's got less of the, no baking powder, none of the baking soda. It's just powdered sugar, which we're going to put in first. Hopefully. I need a spoon. Set that aside, out of the way. The next dry ingredient is the flour. Have to remember not going to my right with this. And then the salt. And the recipe says whisk the dry mixture. Oftentimes, if you've done this with me before, you'll see I'll dump everything into the KitchenAid because it works. But with the shortbread, I like trying to follow this because you've got so few ingredients. I want to get the ingredients mixed really well. So I will simply whisk this for a minute, or not even a minute, but 30 seconds, so that we can get the salt, the sugar, and the flour all mixed together. And that'll be plenty. You can easily do this in another bowl with a whisk, and it will do the same thing. I'm limiting how many bowls that I have out here, so want to try to, make it as simple as possible. Next ingredients are the eggs and the almond extract. Love the almond extract. It really gives it the flavor that we want. And the eggs, by the way, are homegrown, not by me, but my wife's sister-in-law here, who has the chickens, and we get the eggs from her. And I'm just cracking these directly into the bowl, no reason to do it any other way. And that was 3, these are sort of medium sized, but 3 large eggs works great. Whoop, excuse me. Hit that. And then I'm going to add the almond extract into it. And this is where you really want, and excuse the noise because this is a commercial kitchen, and so you're going to hear, you know, this commercial oven, and we've got an ice maker over here, so I will try to make sure that you hear this. So I'm going to get this blended, and you want to get this blended thoroughly. And I'm making a cloud. KitchenAid does make covers for these. I have one. I didn't bring it with me, and I accidentally started it too much. But I love this thing because it will mix anything that you want. And now the mixture, I'll show it to you before I put the butter in. It's starting to mix together and get that doughy consistency. And here is what it looks like now before I put the butter in. So I'm going to I actually will set this out front, and I've heated the butter. One of the things that we found, and I just completed this less than 5 minutes ago, we discovered that the recipe says to let the butter cool. If you let it cool too much, the batter really stiffens up, and then it's hard to get the batter into the muffin tin and get the consistency to cup the raspberry jam. I like using preserves, a little easier, but if you're going for perfection, I would try to do, you know, this while it's hot. If you're not worried about the perfect cakes, I don't know that it matters, but it does really make a difference in how the batter goes into the muffin tin. I'll reattach this and get this started on low, because there's no doubt that I could sling this all over the place. Part of the fun of what we were doing with this mixture, and obviously trying to tie something in with Memorial Day, that you can use this recipe and use it in a number of different ways. It's a base recipe. It doesn't have to be raspberry. I want to try apricots with it, but you can take it and use it for different parts of the year, or for different, you know, styles for the cakes to suit the year, or for whatever you want. And it's an easy recipe on top of it. So it's, you know, not that many ingredients, and makes a nice portion. And my batter is actually almost done now, because the butter was still good and warm, and I'll show it to you in just a second. You can hear?
I can hear, nobody else can hear.
Nobody else can hear. This is what happens when you're live. I'm going to continue. Here, Wade, you want to get a shot up close? I'm going to continue with the cooking. So here's the sort of the consistency, and this is what we want. So I'm going to yeah, there we go. Thanks, Wade. And it's already starting to stiffen up, I swear. I'll let you. All right. Maybe you cannot hear me. Hopefully you can. But what I have done is I have gotten the consistency the way I wanted it. And using these 2 spoons, I'm putting, a little more than actually probably a tablespoon and a half in the bottom. I have the preserves chilling in the refrigerator so that mix, not the preserves, the raspberry jam, will be a little thicker consistency. And I'll get that here in a second. And if you can't hear me, I'm sorry. This is the vagaries of live streaming. Okay. All right, so now I was about to start trying to even this out from each muffin location. That's just going to make a huge mess. I'm going to abandon that, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and start putting in the jam just a little bit, not even a tablespoon, more of a teaspoon with this mixture, directly in the middle of each muffin location. And it doesn't take much. And just evenly across, and then we will finish up by using the rest of the batter to then encapsulate the raspberry. And now you can see this is a much thicker amount and much thicker batter than it was just a minute or two ago, because the butter is solidifying. And I just want to put this on top, and when we put it into the oven, it will spread out over the raspberry jam. And so this is about a tablespoon on top. I have not perfected this method yet. You know, it's not completely in the cakes, but the taste far exceeds the looks of doing this. And for the sake of this show, I assume that you're not as worried about perfection on how it looks here. I'll allow you to figure out a way to do this in order to get it perfect here. And I've almost used all of my batter, and this is just sheer luck on my part of being able to balance this out. And here we go, our last one. All right, not the prettiest, but when it goes into the oven, it will melt and it'll cover this, and that's where I'm going with it right now. Now that we've done that, I've got to step off for a second. I'm going to set it for 20 minutes. This is a convection oven. It's back? Not back? We're live? Okay. If you've got the sound now, and I don't know how much you heard, but basically I put like a tablespoon and a half in the bottom of the muffin tin. Then I had the raspberry jam in a refrigerator to stiffen it up a little bit. Sorry, I keep looking at the wrong camera. And then stiffen it up a little bit, and then top it with about a tablespoon more of dough. Put that in the oven. It is a convection oven, and a convection oven is going to cook quicker, so put it in for 20 minutes for a convection oven. And I've got the timer going. And I'll put that there. And so we're going to set this aside because it's going to take 20 minutes. And in the meantime, I will interview our host and guest, Lucas Cade. Come on, Lucas.
Welcome.
Yeah, thank you.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Lucas is the Economic Development Manager for the Shenandoah Valley Electric Co-op. And we're just going to call it SVEC for the purposes of this because it's a long title. But Lucas, tell the audience about your background and history. Lucas and I have known one another for a long time, but have just been now working together with SVEC for a short while. So I'll let you introduce yourself and talk about what you're doing.
Again, welcome to everyone who's live streaming this. Welcome to, this is our corporate headquarters. We're just south of Harrisonburg, Virginia. Shenandoah Valley Partnership is indeed a very important partner for us because the Shenandoah Valley Electric Cooperative, whom I work for, actually our footprint is about 8 counties in northern Virginia in the Shenandoah Valley. We go from the West Virginia state line all the way down to about Stanton. And we have all the portions of 8 counties plus the city of Winchester, those of you who might know that. But our footprint is very close to the footprint of what the partnership is.
Yeah.
And so we have a lot of synergies that we have in terms of a variety of things, but in this case, economic development. We have about 97,000 meters. We are actually the third largest in the state of Virginia. And we are a cooperative, which is a non-for-profit electric distribution company. We don't have, we don't sell stock, we don't do that sort of thing like an investor-owned utility,
Yeah.
but we actually have members, and they actually are part owners of this cooperative. And we have been, I've been working with the Economic Development Group probably since last October. Actually, I am the Economic Development Group.
You are.
Because we started economic development simply because this valley is growing.
Yes.
And there's an awful lot of growth that's coming from that.
Yeah, that is one of the things that we wanted to bring out, and here's my loose marketing tie-in to our cooking today with infrastructure, is that, of course, you have to have the ingredients to make, a product, a cake or a pie or whatever. You have to have the same thing for economic development growth. And Lucas, you just alluded to something that is important, because while in the aggregate we are a rural region and you cover a large footprint of that, we're growing, and there are issues and opportunities related to that growth. And why don't you talk about sort of your customer base and how you're planning and looking at the future with the electrical system, because you're just one of our providers, but talk about sort of the history of SVEC, how we got here, and then we can talk about those details.
Absolutely. Well, SVEC is actually the third oldest in the state of Virginia, but we were the first to charter. We actually chartered in 1936, just a year after the Rural Electrification Administration was formed in 1935. So we've been around for a long, long time. We are really fortunate because we are a rural cooperative, and our main purpose was to actually serve the rural customer base. Back in the Depression, it was very expensive for the new electric companies to serve, so the federal government put this together, and so we have been serving the rural communities, but we are fortunate because we have a really good industrial, residential, commercial mix. And that actually plays to our benefit, because we can actually, it helps us to balance the rates out and make sure we charge the least amount that we actually have to. We actually are looking for safety, we're looking for reliable service, and we're looking to be able to provide it at the least cost, the best value that we can for our customer base. We have a variety of customers, actually we call them members here, so we have a variety of members up and down the valley. We have food products, we have plastics, we have medical products that we actually, companies that we serve. We have a whole gamut of what we would call the entire industrial template. And so it's really a good balance for us. For now, what we really are looking to do constantly is to improve our service. What can we do? One of the things that we're trying to do now is to put up a new fiber system that's going to serve our entire territory.
Yeah, talk about that a little bit, because I was going to allude to it, because you do serve out into the rural regions, and everyone is talking about broadband. Everyone needs broadband.
Yes.
Yeah, talk about sort of your engagement there.
Well, part of the reason that the rural co-ops were made was to serve electricity all those years ago. Now broadband is kind of in the same situation.
Yeah.
The people in the rural territories are challenged. Their challenges, their expenses to get broadband to them. Now, what we are going to actually do is we're putting together a fiber system for our own internal system to enable us to be better at being able to analyze the usage and to be able to determine where best to do upgrades and facility upgrades and those kinds of things. But the system that we're putting in will have some extra capacity, and so we will be actually working with private ISP providers to be able to provide last mile service. And that we just started doing this year, and so it will probably be a good 4 to 5 years before the whole footprint is covered. But it's a major undertaking for us.
Yeah, you alluded to some of your customers here. you do have a pretty dynamic, broad spectrum of business here, because you're also have business services plus the manufacturing. You want to talk about sort of the demographics briefly of what you have, and I'm not sure I'm saying it properly for you, but you do have a growing manufacturing base.
We do.
Yeah.
We're looking for diversity.
Yeah.
You want diversity so that if there's an impact to a certain customer class or something that happens in the economy, you want to make sure that you can shield the rest of the membership from impacts, from changes and problems that might occur from that. So we actually have a really nice manufacturing base that really helps us to spread some of the costs out more evenly. We also have a very large, what we would call a non-residential base. It has everything from commercial, from retail, healthcare, the entire system like that. And we also have a pretty balanced system for our residential membership. So across the board, we're balanced, and that helps us keep our costs low, and it really is an advantage for us.
Yeah.
So when we talk to businesses, we talk to new customers, potentially, we have a nice balanced story to tell.
For those of you who might not know our exact location within Virginia, we're in close proximity to Northern Virginia. In your previous job, you worked a little bit in the data, sector. We have seen our first huge request for a data center. We are not in the running for that, but this was something that was announced for Virginia. Amazon spending $35 billion
Correct.
on data centers. We were originally one of the possible localities, and the load was so huge. It's probably coming our way, Lucas. Given our proximity, it's going to come across, I think, the Blue Ridge and then hit the upper valley and come down. How do you address that load when the data center load is 21% of Dominion Power's load in Virginia? So,
well, that's part of the reason they brought me in here, that I came to work for them. Is
you're gonna bring it or solve it?
No, hopefully both, but we'll see how that turns out. One of the pressures that we're coming across in the electric industry recently is the extreme electrification of everything. You look at the Inflation Reduction Act and all the trillions of dollars that are being put forth for chips and for other kinds of, for renewable energy sourcing and so forth. So the pressures that are starting to happen to us on the electric industry are immense. And so we as a distribution co-op own no generation. We don't even own hardly any transmission lines. So what we have to do is work proactively with our transmission partners, which are Dominion and First Energy. And we also have to work with them in terms of planning. Where might that load, if and when it comes? We actually are working with several potential members that have very, very large loads. They may be one of the largest ones we've put on our system. So we have to put together plans and contingency plans to make sure we can serve and to make sure that has a very small impact on the rest of our membership. I don't think that's going away anytime soon. The amount of electricity that's used in EVs and the battery productions and all the different things that come with electrification are some things that I've never dealt with very much in my entire career. The data centers are the same thing. In order to run the cloud, you have to have multiple, in the hundreds of megawatts to be able to serve. So we have to plan that, and we have to have partnership and work very closely to make sure we're ready for it when that comes.
Yeah, and that's a bit of a challenge for us in you with the nature of your system and the reason that you exist as well. You don't have the deep pockets like a Dominion or a First Energy. And talk about a little bit of the integration with PJM or the regional and your Old Dominion. You know, there are multiple layers, and you know, it's not just as easy as turning on a flip and all of the electricity is automatically going to be there.
Well, again, because we don't own transmission, we depend upon, we have another cooperative in the state called Old Dominion Electric Cooperative, and that's who actually purchases power for us, okay? And Old Dominion and ourselves actually work directly with our transmission suppliers. So if a member wants to locate and they have a large load, we have to work with the transmission provider to make sure they get it. And the transmission provider will turn and talk to the PJM, which is a regional transmission operator. These are terms that I'm hoping that some of you folks have encountered as you've taken some businesses around. But this is the complexity of what we're dealing with, okay? Yeah. And so we actually will be working very closely all the way up. And these are projects that can be 3 or 4 years in the making because of what it takes. It's a direct challenge to us, but one that we're really looking forward to try to solve and be a part of. It brings great investment for the communities. Mm-hmm. Our local partners are all in on these things. The partnership is all in. We want to make sure we get the folks that live in the valley to be able to get the benefit, the tax benefit that comes from this growth. So we have a lot of planning that we do with folks like yourself and with the other electric companies.
Yeah, I've got another subject that I want to ask you about, but before that, Lucas is mentioning some things that really are things that we are collectively thinking about in terms of what is suitable for our region. You know, we know that, you know, in the big picture, we don't think that we're, you know, properly well suited and not necessarily want one of the big battery projects. I'm not sure that we have the resources to support that. But we also have talked amongst our local economic developers in this region. We don't think it's a proper fit for whom we are with a tourism destination like we are, with the balance of the manufacturing, which is still our largest private sector employment base in this region. We like that balanced approach. Now, we are interested in the data centers, but we know that is a challenge longer term. Where right now, if we have a 100 megawatt data center come along, it'd be a little bit of a challenge, I think, for us if we're not close to substations and the transmission lines. Would you
It's
agree?
Absolutely. The fiber component is there as well. So there are very limited location factors that a data center actually has to take into consideration, but they are specific. Yeah. And so I think that's something that we could certainly work with here. And I think that with the proper planning and the proper approach, we certainly can make it attractive. The bottom line is that it's really become like a clogged water hose in northern Virginia. Ashburn, Virginia, Loudoun County, that's data center central. But they're running out of space, and it's becoming too cost prohibitive. So they're actually looking out. They're actually looking farther out. So we anticipate to get some of that growth.
Yeah, I agree. Which leads to the last subject to talk about, because this is becoming more important: sustainability and renewables here. And I'll let you talk about that. You know, well, how are you addressing?
Absolutely. Real briefly, we actually have embraced the green energy. We actually have a green energy initiatives. Our website is chock full of opportunities that our membership can actually take advantage of to address or to take part in some of the renewables and the green energy. We actually have, for example, we have a community solar program. We're actually building an array of about 4 megawatts of power up in our territory. When that comes online, which will be very soon, probably this fall, some of our membership will actually be able to sign up and get some of that green power. We have all kinds of initiatives that allow us to talk to our membership about energy efficiency, weatherization within their homes, the right kinds of, I was just telling you that we have, Energy Star ovens
appliances,
in here.
That's right, the
Energy
ovens.
Star is part of that energy efficiency. We have quite a bit of sustainability built in, and we'll continue to do that going forward. Absolutely.
Yeah. For us in the Shenandoah Valley, we embrace the renewable, resources when we can. We are, from historically, we are an ag community, so conservation is kind of baked into our DNA. And the solar is an interesting opportunity for us, but we're also concerned about the tourism.
Correct.
The impact that has.
Sure.
And so, but we get asked from all of our prospects now about the purchase of renewable energies, and we
Correct.
Appreciate what you're doing in that regard.
It's the way of the future. It certainly is.
It is.
Certainly
Certainly is. You have anything else you want to tell the audience?
Not at all. I'm
before
just really pleased that you folks came into our home here and really have enjoyed this. I'm actually waiting around to make sure I get a piece of the shortcake. They really, I can actually smell them now while
Oh,
we're
I
baking
know.
them. So it's kind of hard to concentrate. But I really do appreciate that. We at the Shenandoah Valley Electric Cooperative, our whole purpose of existence is for our membership. And we will do everything we can to make sure we keep the costs down and to give them the best possible electric service so that they don't have to think about it from day to day. And that's really what we really are trying to do. So really thank you for coming. I really appreciate you coming.
My pleasure.
And including us. Thank you much.
I appreciate it very much. And I had a thought, and I have totally forgotten it, that I was going to turn to the camera and go, well, part of the ingredients, and now it came back to me. One of the things that is really important for us is we tested this in the marketplace last year. What were the 3 top things that our business community wanted? Well, first of all, they wanted us to work on talent attraction and retention, probably no surprise to anyone. Second was working with our existing businesses and then recruiting new businesses in. And third was site and infrastructure development. And it just so happens that the talent side and the site side is what makes the attraction and the retention of our businesses possible. So my next guest is Philip Rhodes. Philip, I'm going to have you come on a little early. I know we're running probably a couple of minutes early on getting this out, but there's no sense in me just staring at the camera.
Sure.
So, Philip, it's a pleasure.
Thanks for having me today.
Philip is the Director of Public Works for Rockingham County. I'm going to let you give a little bit of a description of Rockingham County in the background, and we'll talk about here the other part of the ingredients to making successful sites is the in-ground infrastructure. In addition to the electricity, it's the water and sewer.
Sure. So Rockingham County, as you said, Public Works handles all the water and sewer for the county. We have about 5,500 water customers and about 6,000 sewer customers. We are, as maybe you mentioned how large the county is, our infrastructure stretches, it's about 120 miles of both, water and sewer, stretches from McGaheysville into the city, right to the edge, and then south to the town of Mount Crawford. We have some areas north of the city up to the Gravels Road area. And then a little bit west, mostly that's sewer customers, but really around the city and then stretching east and south is our main areas.
Okay, and Philip didn't say this, but Rockingham County is the 3rd largest county in Virginia, which is a stretch is about 60 miles across from the Alleghenies in the west to the Blue Ridge in the east. So he's talking about a very large footprint that you're serving. And if you don't recognize some of these names, well, these names were coming from the original settlers, from the Irish, the Germans, and the Scots that came here. And I challenge anybody to try to spell McGaheysville.
Very true.
Yes. You'll have to send it to me if you can actually do it first time without looking it up on Wikipedia. You are a fast-growing county.
Correct.
And Rockingham surrounds the city of Harrisonburg, and in Virginia, our counties and cities are independent. So, but you do work together on some things. You're a fast-growing county, 83,000+, and continuing to add. You've got a lot of business customers too. You have some pretty staggering business customers.
Right.
2 of them, which people may know off the top. You want to mention the beverage company on the eastern side?
So we have the Coors is of course located on the eastern side of the county. They are not connected to our public water and sewer, but they are pulling from the same aquifer that we do,
yeah.
which is one of our biggest assets here in the county is the strength of that aquifer and how much water it does produce. So we actually pull from that aquifer, as I said, from 2 groundwater wells. We pull about 3 million gallons a day, actually produce about 3 million gallons a day of water from that site and basically distribute throughout the county. We're permitted for about 4.2 million gallons, and we're constantly working to improve that number, increase that, just knowing the growth we're looking at. And as you said, we also do partner with the city in some areas. They provide water and sewer services to the north of the city that we basically buy water from the city and then resell to those areas, and constantly working with them. And we have agreements in place for those increases as needed.
Yeah. We are a very dominant industry with poultry, food and beverage, which you have. We're attracting more of those. With this growth, how are you planning and trying to serve these? And Philip was engaged with us with a prospect about 3 weeks ago, which now I think we're getting, but water users. And you did mention something. We understand that probably 80% of the country, water is a precious resource. We're blessed with water as a natural resource. We have aquifers, we have springs that are producing millions of gallons here. We don't take it for granted, but it is a resource for us that really allows the food and beverage to be possible.
Correct. And one we didn't mention was the Danone in the Mount Crawford area, which uses a vast percentage of our total water usage.
Yeah. Hold that thought.
Sure.
Oh yeah, they're done. I couldn't hear the alarm going off, and I was like, oh, with the way it smells, we've got to have these done by now. And here we are. This is what happens when I leave them in 3 minutes too long because I'm so busy talking out here. But that's going to be the bottom side anyway. So, Phil, I interrupted you. I'm going to let these have to cool. You have to let them cool for 10 minutes. And I've got it cut off. Take it away. If you could remember where I stopped you.
Talking about Danone and how large they are as part of the county. That was one of the other our largest customers that we have. But talking about the aquifer, that's one thing we're always planning and working through is we have a capital plan that we work through each year. It's a 5-year plan, but we take that plan and look at basically any kind of prospects that may be coming in, trying to determine areas that we think may be prime for growth, and looking at do we have adequate water and sewer systems to that area. And with the capital plan, it's not just putting new projects in place. It gives us the time each year to look at it and decide, do we need to move projects up, move them back? Is there things that are more shovel-ready projects that we really need to move up and try to get those in place before a customer or potential development moves into that area.
Yeah. Danone is a French-owned company that purchased White Wave, which we have a huge facility not far from us, actually less than a mile from our location, from which we're broadcasting from the SVEC headquarters, and they are a tremendous user, but they produce the International Delight creamers and some of the other, and it's an amazing operation.
Correct.
Goodbye.
Right. And one thing with that capital plan thinking, when you talk about trying to increase our production, like I said, the water plant currently is permitted for about 4.2 million gallons a day, but we already have a project in place for drilling a 3rd well. We've already signed a contract for that should start in the next 2 months. And again, we have 2 wells producing about 2 million gallons each. This will be another well. Hopefully they'll be in somewhere that same range. And then in the capital plan, we have improvements to our water plant. We currently are restricted by our filters, so this will be putting another filter in place that hopefully would get us up to somewhere around 6 million gallons a day potentially. and just thinking about all this growth that is coming.
Yeah, I had great. And you do have the interconnection with the Harrisonburg.
Correct.
Right. You
Yes.
want to just, well, you do have a regional authority.
Well,
Authority, or I'll let you describe it.
okay, so for the
I've
water
always
side,
used to
we
say
have
authorities.
interconnections with the city in the towns of Dayton and Bridgewater, and actually we sell water to the town of Mount Crawford. We have small pulls from each of those localities. Typically, it's more of emergency services, but we are a part of an authority for the sewer authority. So all the sewer from the county, at least county water customers, is treated at the Harrisonburg-Rockingham Regional Sewer Authority, which we're a member of, along with the city, the towns of Dayton, Mount Crawford, and Bridgewater. And there, our capacity is about 5.6 million gallons a day, which we're using about 3 million gallons. So plenty of capacity in both the water and sewer system, but as I said, we are a member of that authority that basically handles all the treatment for all those localities.
Anything else that you want to share?
Just not that I can think of offhand. Again, we're always, I feel we have a very strong system, both water and sewer.
Yeah.
Again, as you mentioned, the aquifer is a great asset. No concerns there. I know there's been concerns in the past. I know other localities with droughts, and I guess it was about 10 years ago they had the really bad drought. Our wells didn't even drop. That's how strong that aquifer is, and that's with cores potentially pulling off of that, Merck. We just not see any effects. So we're very fortunate the amount of water we do have available and what we can have for future projects. And again, sewer as well, just a lot of extra capacity we have available for any potential developments that come in place.
Yeah, huge for us with the food and beverage side of things, and really appreciate what Philip is doing for the sites that we're trying to develop and get out there with getting the capabilities to this.
Yes, and it's always nice to hear about those up front. It gives us a chance to review them and try to accommodate them as best we can.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
Thank you, Philip.
All right.
I really appreciate it.
Thanks so much.
While I continue to let this cool, I'm going to go ahead and prepare the hazelnut topping for this. And I believe we sent the information, but the way that I love to do this is a just Ziploc bag. And take a Ziploc bag and cut the corner off of it. And let's see if I can do this right. And I don't want it too big. And about maybe 1/4 of an inch, or not quite, if I can get it here. And now my scissors are not going to work. There we go. That will work. And then I'm just going to load the bag with the hazelnut, but I'm going to go ahead and try to pop the cakes out. Make sure I don't pick this up with my bare hands. And let's see if I can do this. Probably won't be elegant, but I'll try to. There it goes. All right, I lost 3. Now, 4. There we go. And get these all on the plate. Now, honestly, this is overdone as far as I'm concerned. I don't think it's going to matter. They are not burnt, but I wouldn't, it should be golden brown, not brown brown. But that's what happens when I couldn't hear the alarm going off. I should have pulled them out when Lucas said that we could smell them. I think that was exactly the right time to do that. So I'm going to get now the hazelnut spread. And we're going to load up the Ziploc. Because this is so much easier for me to do this way than it is to try to spread it with a spoon. I am terrible at doing that. Because I am never able to get the spread where I want it with spoons. And I'll do one more. And what we don't use can go back in the jar. Here. Put that over there. And now you have a way to spread it evenly across the top of each cake. And all I do is just go around just like that. I'll do 2 or 3 so that you can see. And you could spread that out if you would like. And that's really all it takes, is just to make sure you can get these, get them covered, and you can add as little or as much as you want. Here, I'll continue to do these. Just the same process, however much you want to put on here. And this amount, it's probably like 3 tablespoons of this in here. That'll cover these really well. Three more and we're done. I'm not as artistic as probably many of you are. I'm just swirling it on. And the last one. Go back a little bit with what I've got here. And there we go. All right, like I said, not necessarily very artistic. I'm sure you can do better. But for the purposes of our show today, I think we got it covered. And I just wanted to show that you probably already know that trick, but I think it's fantastic because when I try to do it with a spoon, it just does not work. I hope that you've enjoyed the show. I'll invite my 2 guests back up. Please, I appreciate both Philip and Lucas
Thank you very much
for joining me. I hope that this was informative to you, that we are thinking about what makes, the sites and then obviously our businesses and our residences, successful here with the infrastructure. Do you have anything else to say before we wrap up?
No, we're just ready for new business. Bring it. Ready to be here to help. Absolutely.
Always looking for new development, and I will put a plug in. I forgot to mention that our water plant actually we're a member of the Virginia Rural Water Authority and won the Best Tasting Water Award for this current year. So just want to put in a plug in for that.
Good plug. We appreciate you joining us. We plan on another show in August, and we let us know if you have questions or anything else to cover, and we look forward to seeing you once again. And with that, we'll wrap it up here. and you have a very good day.